call this meeting of the Northeast Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. The board will now adjourn into executive session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, private consultation with the board's attorney. 551.072, discussing purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. 551.074, to discuss personnel or to hear complaints against personnel. And the time is 5:30. The board will now reconvene into open session, and the time is 6:14. On behalf of the trustees, I would like to welcome you to this evening's meeting of the Northeast Independent School Board. This is a business meeting of the board held in public. We appreciate your attendance and request your respectful attention. We welcome your comments during the matters from the floor section of the agenda. If you signed up to address a specific action agenda item, you will be called at that time. Finally, I would like to remind you that it is the mission of Northeast to challenge and encourage each student to achieve and demonstrate academic excellence, technical skills, and responsible citizenship. Before we move into item 5, invocation and pledge of allegiance, I would like to ask that we have a moment of silence in memory of our officer that we lost last week. Item 5, invocation. Ms. Winkley.
Please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to come together this evening. Lord, we ask you to hold our students, families, and staff who are struggling during this time. For those struggling with mental illness, depression, and anxiety, may they seek guidance, and may our staff members find courage and strength as they work to be all for all in need. For our virtual students assisting with younger siblings, may they remain focused and open to asking for assistance when needed. For our families impacted by COVID through illness or loss, may they find comfort in you and through the assistance of our counselors, staff, and administrators. For our community, may we be healthy and safe on campus and at home. Help us to make sound decisions for the well-being of our neighbors and our loved ones. For our staff, please relieve any stress or anxiety associated with caring for in-person and virtual learners. May they feel our gratitude every day. For our administrators who work tirelessly at vaccinating our teachers and our staff, may there be additional resources to provide vaccines for all of our employees. For our students and families, may they have adequate food and a safe place to live during this academic hardship. May they feel hope and seek help when needed. And prayers for our administrators and district leaders who continue to make unforeseen decisions in uncharted territory. May we remain united, positive, and purposeful during this time. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Shannon, real quick, Sandy, Mrs. Hugh, I got this idea from you. So I contacted some teachers and staff and counselors in our district and asked, they see their front line, they see these kids, they know the needs. And so I asked for their prayers this evening. And so those prayers are prayers from our staff and from our teachers. So thank you for those who said yes to participating.
Thank you, Sandy. Item 6, matters from the floor. The trustees welcome comments from members of the public during this time of the meeting. Generally, board members do not respond to public comments during the meeting, although members may request further information or a future agenda item on a matter raised during public comment. As explained fully in the board's written procedures for this time, the matters from the floor portion is a limited public forum. Accordingly, speakers may present on a topic related to district business for up to 3 minutes, but are not permitted to make 1, personal complaints about an individual staff or board member that should be raised using the district's grievance policies. 2, a personnel action. 3, a student disciplinary matter. 4, a complaint about a particular student. 5, or pending litigation. Any person who persists in speaking on these topics after being directed not to do so will lose the remainder of their time to speak and may lose their privilege of addressing the board at future meetings. We also welcome written comments at any time, either through email at board@neisd.net or by mail, care of the superintendent's office at 8961 Tesoro Drive, 6th floor, San Antonio, Texas 78217. Ms. Huey.
Patsy Esterline.
Good evening, President Grona, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. I'm Patsy Esterline, president of the Northeast AFT. The address is 10615 Perrin Vital, Suite 203, San Antonio, Texas 78217. According to teachers Northeast AFT surveyed, stress continues to increase and the dangers of COVID-19 is increasing. I'd like to recount some of these concerns. Teachers report that students are coming to school sick and not telling anyone. In turn, teachers are oftentimes not told in a timely manner that a student in their class has come down with COVID-19. Often it is as much as a week later. Nurses are in need of support for contact tracing. They are working long hours and just can't keep up. Disappointingly, the district is not following its own guidelines. Classes can go as high as 40 students in a room in some elementaries when classes are combined due to a teacher being absent, which is often. At the secondary level, many classes place 25 or more students in a room. Ventilation and classroom cleaning remains a major concern. Rules regarding student social distancing are ignored in many cafeterias and classrooms. In the hallways, many students do not wear masks without being addressed by the administration. Northeast AFT asks that the administration of every school set the standards by enforcing the rules regarding masking, social distancing, and hand washing. Teachers must be told immediately when their students come down with COVID-19. Ventilation in each classroom must be checked with MIRV 13 air filters installed. Contact tracing must become more efficient and accurate by supplying support for the nurses. Next, the district must go back to the limit of no more than 5 students physically present with only addition under the Abbott rule. The superintendent should encourage parents to keep students at home. Safety should be the priority. Finally, the limit to what a teacher may do in a workday has been passed. Steps must be taken to address this. Northeast AFT stands ready to assist the administration in this. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's all.
Okay, thank you. Item 7, matters from executive session. A, personnel including but not limited to administrative appointments pursuant to Government Code Section 551.074. 1, possible action regarding proposed recommendation for termination of Chapter 21 term contract employee. That is no action. Item 8, recognitions. A, staff recognition. 1, media productions. So I have to do a shout out to, I know you hate it, but our media production department has, thank y'all for coming in. So our Smart Driving Club last year went to the TASB Winter Governance Camp in Galveston, and this year it is going to be virtual. And I was asked if we would submit a program or a presentation to TASB for this year. And it was kind of last minute, and so I said, well, hey, what if we do Smart Driving Club again? Because basically we had all that information. And so they did, and they said, you can video it over a Zoom and blah, blah, blah. And I kindly asked Dr. Micah if we could use our awesome media productions department, because you all do such a fantastic job creating these video presentations. So last week we met at Johnson, and I will tell you that if I had been in charge, I would have been throwing a fit, because we had airplanes flying. We were outside. Airplanes flying over. We had the hot rod cars in the parking lot. We had everything imaginable was happening. And Jason and Rob were just so patient. They're like, okay, we'll just do another take. So we had 4 students, 2 parents, and myself videoing this. It took us a couple hours, but I haven't seen the finished product, but I know it's going to be amazing. So I want to thank you for that. And also, you all did the Founders Day, the YouTube for Founders Day, which was another amazing production. It was beautiful. I watched it, and you guys did an amazing job putting that together. So I just want to thank you all for everything that you do. You do a great job, and I really appreciate Dr. Micah letting you all help us when we need you. So thank you.
There we go. All right, Dream Team. 1, 2, 3. Got it.
Thank you very
Thank you, guys.
Item 9, presentations. A, Citizens Bond Advisory Committee, Hvac Annual Report to the Board of Trustees for the 2015 Bond Program. Mr. Clary.
Madam President, Dr. Micah, members of the board, executive staff, and guests, it's my honor to once again welcome Chairman Morrison to the podium, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Sullivan at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Clary.
So here or
We need this right here, Fred.
right here?
We need the screen down, please, in the back. That's okay.
Hi, Terry, how are you?
Madam President, members of the board, it's my pleasure this evening, and Dr. Micah, to introduce Mr. Morrison, who is one of the founding members of our Hvac. He's been with us since 2003, and 15 of those years he's been the chairperson. He wasn't the first chairperson. He took over after Doug McMurray completed his time. So without further ado, I'm going to let Mr. Morrison present the annual report.
Thank you, Gary. Good evening, President Grona, board members, Dr. Micah, members of executive staff, and guests. I'm Fred Morrison, chairman of the Citizen Bond Advisory Committee, and I'm here to present on behalf of Hvac our 17th annual report to the Board of Trustees on the status of the district's 2015 bond program. The Hvac was appointed by the Board of Trustees and Superintendent of Schools in 2003 to monitor the district's bond programs. Our mission remains the same since inception: to monitor the scope, cost, and timely delivery of each bond construction project, and to help ensure that the bond program is successfully accomplished as approved by the taxpayers. The success of the Hvac depends on its members. We have a core group of enthusiastic members that are committed to the mission of the Hvac and the district's bond program oversight. At this time, I would like to publicly acknowledge and recognize the Hvac team for their continuing contributions to the district and the Hvac organization. Our Vice Chairman, Ken Lawrence, and our members, Suzanne Blaylock, Justin Clemens, Betty Days, Price Darling, Ricky Ford, Mr. Frost, Patty Garza, Maureen Lancaster, Brandon Logan, Christopher Mammon, Dale Patno, Dolores Cerna, Todd Spears, and our newest member, Chris Stoppel. I know that many of them are watching the live stream, and I wanted to thank them for taking the time to do that also. Thank you, Hvac members, and we will see you at the next meeting. Now for the annual report. The Hvac is very pleased with the outstanding progress of the 2015 bond program as we conclude year 5 of our district implementation plan. The superb professional in-house planning and design services, coupled with excellent program and project management, has resulted in an overall bond program that is in great financial shape. The 2015 bond global contingency fund balance equals $510,000, which reflects funding authorized by the board to address new project initiatives, such as, but not limited to, safety and security perimeter fencing and gate infrastructure upgrades at all elementary, middle, and high school campuses, conversion of the West Avenue Elementary School campus into the district's pre-K academy, installation of a new secure entry vestibule at Montgomery Elementary School, and creation of the CTE Institute of Cybersecurity and Innovation program at the newly purchased property near MacArthur High School, to name just a few. All 10 projects shown in light green on this slide were funded through the 2015 Bond Global Contingency Fund at a total cost of $14.5 million. Additionally, the Construction Management and Engineering Department has attained an in-house construction contingency fund balance of $1.54 million, while managing the day-to-day project requirements of the bond program. As shown on this slide and outlined with the red box, Year 5 bond expenditures totaled over $35.5 million, representing approximately 7.1% of the overall bond program, with $23.5 million in construction, $11.9 million in technology, and $149,000 in camera monitoring upgrades to our school buses. The 2015 bond program expenditures now exceed over 91.5% of the total program funding as of December 2020. All remaining active construction contracts are on track to finish during calendar year 2021. Now, I am pleased to highlight the status of the 2015 bond program projects that were completed in calendar year 2020. The Lee High School new Performing Arts Center project was completed in December 2020 and turned over for campus use for the start of the spring semester in January 2021. This project included a new 750-seat auditorium, 2 dance studios, and other fine arts program areas for both the Lee High School Fine Arts and the Northeast School of the Arts Magnet program. The Nimitz Middle School Fine Arts Addition and Renovations project was completed in August 2020 and turned over for campus use at the start of the fall semester. This project included new band and choir facilities, renovations to the existing campus auditorium, and construction of enclosed connecting corridors throughout the entire facility to tie together all campus fine arts program areas under one roof. The Hidden Forest Elementary School Addition and Renovations project included a facility expansion for the administrative, counseling, and cafeteria dining areas, new secure entry vestibule, new teacher workroom, library renovations, and installation of both permanent and new folding accordion partition walls within the campus classroom areas to replace old non-operational folding accordion partitions. While a portion of this construction work was completed in August of 2019, the final phase of the project, which consisted of a new gymnasium facility, was completed and turned over for campus use in January 2020. The Montgomery Elementary School new gymnasium facility addition project, along with outdoor playground improvements, were completed in late May 2020. Following this work, the campus porous paved artificial surface walking track was completed and turned over for campus use in October 2020. District campus fire alarm system upgrades, which consisted of replacing fire alarm control panels and selected visual and audio devices, was completed in December 2020. The project included work at 9 separate locations. The middle school safety and security perimeter fencing and gates project was completed in May 2020, providing new perimeter and interior campus areas, fencing and gate installations, along walk pathways and driveway entrances to better secure all 14 middle school campuses. The CTE Business Incubator Program Innovations Project at Reagan High School was completed in August 2020, providing new CTE program space at the campus. The project renovated the old JROTC rifle range into CTE Business Incubator Program classroom and conferencing areas. The Nimitz Middle School Kitchen HVAC Upgrades Project provided new HVAC equipment, rooftop unit, and ductwork to service the kitchen and serving line areas. This project was completed in August 2020 to support the start of the fall 2020 school semester. The Montgomery Elementary School Secure Entry Vestibule Project was completed in January 2020 and provides a secure vestibule at the campus front entrance to process visitors and check their credentials before gaining access to the campus. The glass installed at the secure entry vestibule is bullet resistant. The Blossom Athletic Center Dryland Diving Practice Area Project was completed in December 2020 and includes 2 diving boards, 2 trampolines for students to practice their diving routines under a covered lighted structure. This practice area supports the BAC aquatics programs at the adjacent Josh Davis and Walker natatoriums. The 2015 bond program includes several projects that are currently under construction and will be completed during calendar year 2021. These include the Lee High School CTE STEM Robotics Lab renovations project is under construction and on track for completion in the spring of 2021. This project transforms the former Lee High School metal dance building into a CTE STEM robotics lab. The Transportation North Bus Facility Drainage Basin Repair Project is underway and with construction completion planned for the spring of 2021. This project replaces the existing concrete drainage structure, which became unserviceable due to numerous high-volume rainstorm events over the past decade. The Elementary School Safety and Security Perimeter Fencing and Gates Project is under construction and will provide for both perimeter and interior campus areas fencing and gate installations along walk pathways and driveway entrances to better secure all 46 elementary schools. The project is on track to be completed by early August 2021. The CTE Institute of Cybersecurity and Innovation project is set to begin construction in mid-February 2021, pending board approval of the construction contract later this evening. This new district initiative will incorporate cybersecurity instruction into the district's CTE program, beginning with classes at this facility in the fall of 2021. The execution of the Technology and Library Services program is also going extremely well, with approximately 79% of the overall program funding and contracts executed to date, representing over $57.49 million. Some program highlights include deployment of new teacher and administrator laptops is complete. Replacement of classroom digital projectors coupled with the ability to wirelessly project from both teacher and student devices is underway. Completion of upgrades to campus building fiber systems now provides additional internet bandwidth for campus classrooms. The district is currently building out a new fiber-wide area network between campuses and the Tesoro Reagan data centers. Library services technology bond purchases have enabled library programs to thrive for both in-person and virtual students. The transportation school bus replacement program is complete, with 78 new buses purchased, including a combination of 71 passenger, 29 passenger, and 14 passenger buses, as well as 4 special purpose travel buses. Finally, this past year, the Hvac participated in 2 Saturday field tours, one in September and the other in November, under the direction of the Construction Management and Engineering Department. The Hvac visited a total of 8 campuses during these weekend tours. Site visits included Kruger Middle School, the district's pre-K academy at West Avenue, Hidden Forest Elementary School, Reagan and Madison High School JROTC facilities, the Lee High School Performing Arts Center, the Nimitz Middle School Fine Arts Facility, and the Northeast Agri-Science New Meat Processing and Ag Engineering Facility. These completed projects showcased outstanding 2015 bond construction work across the district. It was also a true pleasure to have several board members join us to walk these various completed bond projects during the field tours. In conclusion, the Hvac is very pleased with the overall progress and execution of the construction, technology, library services, and transportation bus replacement programs, as well as the overall financial posture of the 2015 bond program, especially with the careful investment of millions of dollars in new projects and facility enhancements through the use of 2015 bond program contingency funds. On behalf of the entire committee, I wish to thank Garrett Sullivan, Executive Director for Construction Management and Engineering, Tom Johnson, Executive Director for Technology and Library Services, Jack DeForest, Executive Director for Transportation, and Jason Gattell, Director of Media Production, for the extra effort they provide to support our regular Hvac meetings and project field tours. Thank you for your time this evening. This concludes the annual Hvac report to the Board of Trustees for calendar year 2020. I will be pleased to take any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. That was a very thorough report.
Thank you.
It's very exciting to see everything that we've done, what's been completed. Does anybody have any questions, Ms. Hewitt?
I just wanted to say thank you so much to Fred and your committee. Y'all are just so incredible. And Mr. Sullivan, is it still that Mr. Darling, Price Darling, still has a perfect attendance record in 17 years?
Yes, ma'am, no misses.
That's so incredible. And I think, Fred, probably you and your vice chair, Ken, are probably pretty close behind on that one.
I know I don't have Price's record.
Price Darling is a true treasure to this district, that's for sure. Thank you so much, too, for allowing us to attend the tours. Those are always so much fun. I really love them. But I think the Hvac has been one of the best things that this board has ever done. It's so great to have that citizen voice. When we first set up the committee in 2003, it was a very deliberate choice of words to call it an advisory committee and not an oversight. But that doesn't lessen the job that they've done. And it's always so much easier to take a vote on these issues when we know that it has gone before Hvac. That they're a true reflection of the community voice, and I really appreciate them. So thank you.
As long as we remember our mission is not picking the color of the wallpaper, we're in good shape.
I wouldn't even want to go there personally.
Yeah.
So it's been a labor of love, and I really thank you for all your support. And as long as we keep having buildings pop out of the ground and others being refurbished, I think will be involved. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I'm not sure you're finished yet.
Oh,
Ms. Williams,
Oops.
did you have a question?
I almost ran off, Tara.
You did, you did. Well, thanks again, Fred, and I still treasure the time that I spent on the Hvac committee, and I still miss you guys.
Well, we
Now-
miss you too.
I do have a couple of questions, and, this, may or may not be directed to you, but we're still we did change the name of Lee High School, didn't we?
Oh,
It's Lee, yeah, it's still Lee. A lot of people still call it Lee or Legacy of Education License, but a lot of people still call it Lee.
Yeah. It just doesn't, when we keep calling it Lee, it doesn't reflect the action of the board when it was changed to Legacy. And it's just, maybe it's just my only concern, but I just had a little issue with still referring to it as Lee High School. It just seems like nothing was done. And then, well, it seems like I still asked for this information when I was on the board, on the Hvac Advisory Committee. And I'm going back to the percentage of small businesses that participated. And, I know that, we say, we do have small businesses that participated as subcontractors under, the specific projects, but we were never able to even give an overall percentage. Can we do that at some point?
It was never asked for during the bidding requirements, so we don't have any records that go back to the previous bond programs and the hub businesses, underutilized businesses, and so forth. But we can certainly track that moving forward if that's something that the board wishes to do.
Well, maybe it's just me, but and I'm sure you remember that I did, ask those questions during my time on the Hvac, but it's just even if we didn't ask it, at the time of bidding, I'm sure, from my experience, contractors keep that information anyway. So I guess at some point, I would like to see if we can track that. Those are the issues that I had, but thank you so much for keeping the projects on track and under budget. That's very important. Thank you.
Ms.
Yes, ma'am.
Weekly?
Happy to do it.
Yes, thank you so much for that lovely tour, and I was so excited to meet your better half, Mr. Sullivan. She is just lovely.
Thank you.
I do have a question regarding the upgraded fire alarm systems. So are these, 9 campuses the only ones that needed upgrade? I'm assuming is the upgrade into this electronic system. So were the other campuses upgraded already, or were these just the last 9? Where are we on?
During the bond planning period in 2013, 2014, each department submitted prioritized list to be evaluated by the bond committee. And these were the 9 campuses that the facility maintenance department felt that the equipment needed to be upgraded. We did all the campuses that they recommended that we do.
Okay. And I assume now that we have hired that outside company, they come in and assess if our systems is that part of what their
It's more of a
contract?
No, ma'am, that's under the M&O, that's under maintenance. And they have we have placed
you are.
out for bid, or we have bids now to inspect our fire alarm systems as well as monitor our fire alarm systems.
Okay, so 2 separate.
Yes,
Two
ma'am.
separate things.
And some of the ones that we did in the bond program, we had a few campuses where we had multiple systems at a campus, and so we got it down to just one at those campuses because it was, we would have different panels. It was just, as years of adding on to facilities, and so we made sure that we got them down to just one fire alarm system at each campus.
Okay, thank you. And then, Dr. Micah, this is just a question. Am I remembering correctly? It was a parent that brought the HVAC situation to our attention, or didn't we have a situation in one of our other campuses where we had to upgrade an HVAC in the cafeteria? Is this a different situation than that one as well?
Over
Mr. Clary?
the course of the years, we had added air conditioning to the kitchens.
Okay.
For years we didn't have air conditioning in the kitchen, so we added. Well, we were down to one, and that was Nimitz.
Okay.
And so we were going to try to do it in the next bond if the funds weren't there, but we had the funds and were able to get it into this bond program with our contingency funds. So now all the kitchens are now fully air conditioned.
Well, that is wonderful. Yes, that's the one I remember, that last one. Okay, and then the second, it's coincidental that we are discussing fencing. I had a discussion with our oldest daughter yesterday. She was recalling, and I know that Mrs. Ricky Ford will know this story because her son is the same age as mine. Before we had fencing on our campuses, there was a bank robbery across the street from Churchill High School. And the robber ran into the direction of the campus, which at the time did not have fencing. And the whole school, of course, went on lockdown. And so she's telling us this story of what it's like to be in the classroom. And Mrs. Driscoll, amazing teacher that directed them, remained incredibly calm until they knew that everything was fine. And then I think they all sighed big reliefs, and there were a few tears from all. But, I am so grateful that we have fencing, because that was a very scary situation. They were able to apprehend the bank robber, but he was on campus. He maybe not in the center of campus, but on a portion of campus. And so I'm just so grateful that we've made this decision, and it helps you put your head down at night. So thank you very much, Hvac Committee, for everything that you've done to help and keep our kids safe.
Any other questions? Mr. Hilliard?
Mr. Morrison, thank you so much for everything y'all done at Hvac. I was at Hidden Forest in December with some campus staff, and the principal was just ecstatic about the new upgrades. She was totally excited. I've got a couple questions that I'm getting up to speed on the bond program, and it ties in with you, Mr. Villarreal, but on page 3 of the 31 December interim financials, I'm just trying to make sure I have all the numbers right, big picture. Since 2007, $1.398 billion in bonds and commercial paper have been issued related to the bond program. And then $68 million in interest has come in, which is good over that time. So $1.46 billion total in the bond program, of which $1.432 billion has been spent. This is from 2007 on, obviously not just the 2015. So that leaves about $34.7 million remaining, which $31.7 million's allocated but not spent yet. So we have about $3 million left of bond money. Is that accurate or not accurate? I know there's different pots of money, and I know that was at 91%, but in totality, is that accurate or not?
I think Gary has a slide that shows the...
Because I saw the 5-year on the 2015, but I guess this was from the 2007 beyond, so I was just trying to get an understanding. Okay. So that's a 2015 bond. So we're still saying there's more, about 40 million left then?
499, 950, Mr. Hilliard.
Okay.
So we've still got about 32 million to go.
Okay. And so that's different than the money in the interim financial report?
42 million to go. Excuse me.
Or they're close approximates? I know the numbers don't always line up with expenditures. I'm just trying to get a wrap around. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it, and thank you all for everything, all the volunteers as well as your team, Mr. Sullivan. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mr. Hilliard.
Anybody have anything else? Okay, thank you, Mr. Morrison.
Thank you very much. It's a labor of love.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And your leadership.
You bet. Thank you, Gary.
Yes, sir. Thank
Item-
you, Mr. Morrison.
Item 10, new business for possible board action. A, board policy. 1, possible action regarding board policy update 116, first reading. Dr. Micah.
Thank you, Madam President. As you all know, time to time, TASB takes a look and recommends certain changes. So this evening, we have 5 local policies that they have recommended some changes to. I do want you to know, because I got a call today from one board member about why were they doubled? Why are they? So normally what happens is TASB sends us the first, and we show you what TASB is recommending. The second one is the changes that we make, so that you can see what TASB says versus what we say. All right? In this case, unfortunately, when Peggy brought over our PDF of our changes, well, one, there aren't any changes. We're accepting them all as TASB presented, but the color coding did not carry over into it. All right? So we've talked about that. She's actually re-uploaded it, and we can send you the color, but it's going to look just like the first set of policies. All right? Because there are no changes. Now, if you have any questions about those 5 changes, we have members of my staff here that can answer any questions, but they took a look at them and didn't see any need to make any changes.
Does anybody have any questions? Or okay.
I had a question on FFAC local, pages 1 through 4. And it's formatting issues that just kind of got me a little bit confused. On page 1,
Which one are you talking about?
FFAC local. On our agenda, it's page 12.
Okay,
Okay.
page 12.
Okay. Under the part, that whole beginning part, the red part that's lined out, I get that. And then administering medication is lined out, but then there's a paragraph next to it. So I wasn't sure if that goes to medication provided by parent. See, it doesn't seem to, do you see what I'm not sure where that hanging paragraph was supposed to go. Uh-huh. It's next to the header for administering medication, but that's lined out.
Dan, do you see that?
So is that part of medication provided by parent, or was that paragraph supposed to be deleted also? Yeah, it seems kind of a little bit out of line there.
Yeah, I don't think it's flowing right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious if when the changes are accepted, if it will correct itself.
I
And
think
that's
it's
what I'm-
Because there's a few,
That's what I'm wondering, if
I
it'll
think it's medication
realign when
provided by
it,
parent, the way I read it.
but I just wasn't sure where it went,
No,
when
I
it does
get you.
realign.
Oh.
If it goes to medication
Oh.
provided by parent. Yeah, because then it's,
Okay.
yeah.
I think once everything is accepted, I think it's going to be moved up. But yeah, that administering medication, it's supposed to be that no employees. So I guess once it's picked up, it should fall in line.
It should fall under the medication provided by parent, that's where it should go?
Yes.
Okay. That's kind of what I thought, that because it was so out of a line. And then on page 2, under number 4, I see that the colon has been struck through, and then there's an A, and which looks like it should be part of that. It should just be all connected. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then at the end of A, there's an and.
And
And I wasn't real sure what the and applied to, because then the next line is number 1 for something else.
I think the 1 goes under the A.
yeah, I think it's supposed to be moved up.
Okay. It's just the formatting
there's
that,
some-
for some reason,
there's
TASB
a
didn't
formatting
really
issue
get
there.
line.
I think it's
Yeah.
a format issue.
and I don't know if that 1 is supposed to be a B under A, because that might be the and.
Uh-huh.
And then that 1 is actually supposed to be a 4B, but
Right.
I guess.
And then there's
Take
something
a look at
similar,
that.
actually, on page 4, the very last paragraph, with the medical treatment. first there's the psychotropics 1 through 3, and then medical treatment with a paragraph, and then that very first item under medical treatment is numbered number 4 instead of 1. So I don't think, I think it's supposed to be, and that's such an important sentence too. I wish it was in bold.
Do you want to just double check those?
Yeah, that,
Yeah,
Then
that's just,
that one in
maybe try and
particular had a lot of
Work on formatting for
Yes.
second reading.
Mr. Villarreal, can we look through FFAC local and clean that up?
Yes, I'll make sure I get with Health Services on it.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay.
It just had so many changes, and it's such an important policy. And I know we've had issues in the past with some parents. Yeah, so,
Does anybody have anything else about 116?
Actually, on that one, before we move on, I do have some other questions, but since we're on FFAC, when it talks about the epinephrine, I just lost it. There it is, page 204. I just have a general question. Do we keep, or does each campus keep a list? Because it says authorized and trained individuals and may administer epinephrine and so forth. Does each campus keep a list of who is authorized?
Yes, sir.
And is that updated?
Yes, sir.
How often is that updated? Is it? Sorry about that.
It's okay. At the beginning of the year, when anybody that's on the list goes through training or if somebody's left and we bring in somebody else, it's updated. So the nurse on campus keeps track of those names.
Okay. I assumed that was the case, but I just wanted to check that. The other questions I had back on CQB, the very first one.
Page 9.
Page 9 in our agenda.
Uh-huh.
This is, again, kind of a general question, but, and I've seen this over the last couple of years, flip-flop back and forth. But under training, we say the board delegates to the superintendent the authority to, and then so on. Several other places in some of these policies, we say the superintendent or designee. And I tend to feel more comfortable with that because and I don't know if we need to change it or not, but with something that detailed, I mean, are you specifically going to be making that recommendation? Because if not, I think we need to add designee to that.
Dan, I think, didn't you bring this training to us at executive staff, the cyber? Was this one that you brought to us, or is this one that Tom chose?
This is the one that Tom chose.
Okay.
Remember last year we had that, this is like
Right.
different. This is, I think we paid a couple of $1,000 for.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah, the
that's-
free one wasn't so good,
No,
free.
No.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that one.
And it's one that we have to do every year, so we're trying to tweak it and make it a little bit more user-friendly. This one had some bugs that we were able to fix.
Mm-hmm. So then let's add designee to that.
Okay.
So the board delegates to the superintendent or designee the authority to.
And I think we've seen that come up a couple of times, and I think just to be consistent, we want to make sure that we're doing that across the board.
Peggy, did
Where-
you catch
Where
that?
it makes sense. Yeah, I think that's all I had.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else? Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the first reading of the above listed policies included in update 116 as presented with the changes as we've talked about? Thank you, Mr. Hilliard. Do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Mr. Leos. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, the motion carries. Item 2, possible action regarding board policies FDA and FDB local inter-district and intra-district transfers. Second reading, Mr. Jimenez.
Thank you, President Grona, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. So we are bringing you the second reading of FDA and FDB local regarding the inter and intra-district transfers. And as you recall from last month's meeting, the rationale for the policy changes really centered around providing consistency with the language, but also with the structure of both policies. So that way it's not as confusing. During that same meeting, Mrs. Huey, you made that suggestion about adding the phrase "or designee" after superintendent. And so you'll note that we have included that piece there. And so it's reflected. So Christy Wilbur, Executive Director of Student Support Services, and I are here to answer any questions that you all may have.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed that y'all had added that, and it's highlighted, so thank you for doing that. Does anybody have any questions about second reading of this? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve FDA and FDB local interdistrict and intra-district transfers as submitted?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Byer. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mrs. Winkley. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, the motion carries. Thank you. Item B, resolutions. 1, possible action regarding sale of surplus property benefiting JROTC. Mr. Jimenez.
President Grona, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests, we are right now looking for our Colonel Henson, who is going to be presenting this piece, and so he may just be right outside. But we are going to ask him to come into the podium to address this agenda item.
We can move on to the next one and come back. Would you like to do that?
That'll be fine, and if he can't, then I'll be happy to take that for him. I just don't want to steal his thunder.
Mr.
Absolutely.
Jimenez, I could present this, but go ahead.
Well, he doesn't
all
want
right.
to steal his thunder.
That's okay. Look, Colonel just wants permission to do this, and he can't do it. There he is.
Yeah, man.
Come on,
yeah.
Colonel.
Come on in.
So may I present Colonel
Yes.
Robert Henson,
Yes.
Director of Army Instruction
Right.
and JROTC.
Yes, please.
President Grona, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. I'm here this evening to go over a resolution we've been working on for quite a while. And if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and read that. Whereas the board is authorized by Section 11.151 of the Texas Education Code to acquire and hold the property of the Northeast Independent School District, which includes the disposition of surplus property, and is also authorized by Section 45.105 to expend funds for the purpose necessary to conduct of public schools as determined by the board. Whereas the board remains committed to supporting the JROTC programs offered in all of its high schools, whereas the property located at 4303 Post Office Drive in San Antonio, Texas, known as the JROTC Urban Confidence Course, where the JROTC programs conduct training activities, is considered district property regardless of condition. Whereas the board understands that trees will continue to be removed from campus sites for several reasons. The JROTC program is conducting a repurposing of these trees as part of maintenance, and that the wood from these trees is surplus district property that would otherwise be disposed. Whereas the board understands that the JROTC program would like to use this surplus property by preparing it into firewood to be sold to the general public as a fundraiser to benefit the JROTC program. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of Northeast Independent School District authorizes the JROTC program to dispose of the surplus property identified in this resolution by selling it to the general public as firewood, and to have the funds raised by such a sale deposited. Let me put my glasses on. I got mine, if they don't fog up. Deposit in appropriate accounts for use to benefit of the participating JROTC programs. I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Just had a comment.
Any questions?
No, but wow, what a brilliant, innovative, green idea. I am so impressed.
Thank
So
you, ma'am.
impressed.
You took my words. Creative, innovative. I just love this. It's just great.
How much wood are we talking about? How much wood are you talking about? Like, how much is out there?
Do you want a calculated guess?
Down to the log. Just kidding.
A
No, I mean,
lot.
Yeah. I was
Let me
saying,
get my truck.
A lot.
Good. And now are all programs participating in this? Like
All 7 of our programs?
Yes.
They all haven't made a commitment yet
Okay.
because they want to see someone else get the benefit of it rather than just carte blanche involved.
Yeah.
I think everyone will over a period of time as they see what we're producing.
Sure.
So
And are there ways that we can encourage them all to give them a little nudge? Because I think this is a fantastic idea. And I'd hate to see a school not participate and not get the benefits of that. And so.
we would too, sir, because
yeah.
we like to earn our own way rather than ask for a
Absolutely.
handout.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for doing this. I think this is a great.
Yes, sir.
idea.
Ms. Williams?
Great idea. So when and where could someone purchase the firewood? And will it be ready before the winter vortex?
Oh, on Thursday?
Yeah. No. It's going to take us several months now. We've been working on this project since May of '20, and we're a little late right now for the winter season in January that we have, and probably not going to go into full swing until next fall.
Okay. I'll be ready.
Yes, ma'am.
No, yeah. Anything else?
I think Dr. Mike has got a chainsaw ready for this.
Hey,
too.
I have a blue chainsaw.
Oh.
I could-
Miss Grona's coming out there too, so be careful.
A blue chainsaw?
I do. And I know how to use it.
I understand.
Good answer, Colonel.
Okay. Well, I was just offering to help.
Ma'am, you're welcome to come out and help.
Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the repurposing and sale of firewood as a fundraiser benefiting the JROTC program?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Williams. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hilliard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Thank you. Let me know when I can come to work.
Thank you, ma'am.
Let me know when I can buy wood.
Item C, Instruction and Campus Administration. 1, possible action regarding 2021-2022 proposed calendar for the Castle Hills Elementary and Academy of Creative Education. Mr. Jarrett.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Micah, members of the board, executive staff, and guests. At this time, I would like to ask Dr. Esmeralda Munoz to come forward for this agenda item.
Hello, good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. I've had the lovely pleasure of presenting the 2021-2022 calendars on multiple occasions, so here we go one more time. Tonight we're presenting the proposed 2021-2022 Castle Hills and Academy of Creative Education, or ACE, calendars for the upcoming school year. Before going over the calendar, I would like to reiterate some items that were considered during the initial calendar adoption process. The proposed calendars fall within the legal guidelines established by both the state of Texas and NEISD legal policy. Daily student instructional minutes of 75,600 minutes is included in each calendar. Academic priorities, bad weather days, and holidays were also considered in the creation of the calendar options. Both calendars were created and approved by campus faculty, the Campus Improvement Committee, CIC, and members from the campus PTAs. And under Chapter 12A of the Texas Education Code, as a district of innovation, a district can provide modifications to the school day or year, or create a non-traditional calendar which allows for these two calendars to fit the needs of their students. The Academy of Creative Education, or ACE, was developed with the intent to allow for flexible scheduling options to meet the needs of the students that they serve. So those are some items that I wanted to present prior to presenting the new additions of these two calendars. So as you can see in the presentation, I believe you all were provided the PDF of each calendar. I tried to align these two calendars to match what our district calendar looks like so that way there's no confusion as far as the colors. So if you look at Castle Hills Elementary, the calendar begins July 12th and ends May 20th. Staff and student holidays are noted in beige. Severe weather days are in red. Early dismissals are in yellow, with new teacher orientations noted in green, and blue days are staff development days and teacher choice days. Intersession days are noted in gold. So for first semester, we have a total of 93 days, and second semester has 87 days, for a grand total of 180 days with at least 75,600 minutes. Are there any questions on that calendar?
I just have one question. So the blue, if you'll go back.
Yes, ma'am.
I know the new orientation in green is district-wide, but school starts before that. So is that blue that's used for staff development for those teachers that are already employed? Is that their new hire training?
So I do believe that CNI does have a different,
Yes, they work with the CNI department to provide the same training that all new teachers would get on a traditional calendar, so it's a collaborative effort. But during that time, that is when the teachers are coming back to campus on a traditional calendar as well, so we're able to accommodate both. Thank you.
so the ACE calendar begins July 19th and ends June 16th. The staff and student holidays are noted in beige. The blue days are staff development days and teacher choice days. And new teacher orientation is noted in green, for a grand total of 205 days with at least 75,600 minutes. At this time, if you all have any questions, we will be happy to answer any questions that you may have. The administrative staff recommends that the Board of Trustees approve the Castle Hills and Academy of Creative Education calendars for 2021 and 2022.
Any questions about the calendar?
Just have one question, if it's possible. Appreciate the presentation. On the ACE, I saw 205 days. Is that for that flexibility for their performances and all that stuff that you built in? That's the intent of the 205 days?
Absolutely.
Okay. I appreciate that. And all the parents and community are behind it as well. They're like the schedule.
Absolutely. It is a campus that serves students that are in special circumstances. We want to ensure that we give them the utmost amount of time to be able to reach that goal of graduating high school. We also have post-secondary items that they can also accomplish through their time there at ACE. So we do our very best to outfit them with the best program.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Did you have something? Oh, okay. Anybody else? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the 2021-2022 proposed calendars for Castle Hills Elementary and Academy of Creative Education as submitted by their respective staffs?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Winkley. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Leos. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Munoz. Item D, consent. 1, instruction and campus administration. A, DIA exhibit change. 2, business services. A, Region 20, Texas 20 Purchasing Cooperative. B, donations. C, 50,000 purchases. 3, operations. A, parking agreement at Hero Stadium with the Multi-Assistance Center at Morgan's Wonderland, MAC, construction phase. B, 2015 bond Northeast Institute for Cybersecurity and Innovation, facility renovations, project bid award approval. C, 2021 annual construction prevailing wage rates approval for Northeast ISD construction programs. D, district-wide indefinite delivery quantity IDQ portable building relocation and related work services contract bid authorization approval. E, district-wide indefinite delivery quantity IDQ roofing repairs and roof-related work services contract bid authorization approval. F, 2016 hail damage program year 3 re-roofing and roof-related project 2 campuses bid authorization approval. G, professional services contracts, construction contracts, and related contract amendments supporting the 2015 bond and maintenance and operations program design and construction requirements. 4, minutes from January 2021. 5, end of consent. Do I have a board member wishing to pull an item from consent? Ms. Huey?
Yes, I'd like to pull the cyber, let me see, I'm sorry, 3B, 2015 bond for cybersecurity.
3B. Okay.
Madam President, could I pull 2B, the donations, and 2C, the 50,000 plus purchases, please?
Okay, 2B and 2C.
Yes, ma'am.
And I need to add 3C and 3G.
3C and 3G. Anybody else? I'm like, Man,
This is the most we've ever, this is the record, yeah.
They had two that were pulled, and I think it's the same question.
okay, so do I have a motion to approve consent without 2B, 2C, 3B, 3C, and 3G? Thank you, Mrs. Winkley. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Williams. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, the motion carries. Okay, item 3B. That's all right.
This will probably go to Mr. Sullivan. Thank you. I really appreciate the fact that we are taking the low bid. That's just great and wonderful, and the money-saving part of it is, of course, very appealing. But based on prior experience, I'm also a little gun-shy sometimes when it comes to that, particularly when we're not going with a contractor that we've had a lot of experience with, like Joris or Marksman or some of the Satterfield, the people that we use on a regular basis. Although I trust our matrix for selection, do we have a lot of experience with this contractor? And what kind of delineated that decision towards CGC?
We do have experience with CGC. They're actually one of the approved vendors that's on the district's bid list as like a jock contractor. They've done several projects for us in the 2015 bond program. They're a small-sized contractor. They do about $4 to $8 million per year in work. Their staff is 11. We're very comfortable with them doing the work. We have no issue whatsoever.
Okay. I'm going to trust you on this because you know where I'm coming from on this issue and some past experiences that we've had, and so I get nervous on these things. So, and this is an important project. So
Yes, ma'am. There's absolutely nothing that has any of us in the construction management department concerned with the ability of CGC to complete this project on schedule.
I think our matrix that you created is strong and everything else, but we did have a bad slip in the past, so I'm always a little nervous when it's someone newer and smaller. When I see the other names that I'm so familiar with over the years that came in pretty close. So, okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. I appreciate it.
And I'd like to add on that topic as well that to have that many bids come in for that project is
That's
incredible. With some experience in my own professional life and to have that tight of a range, and especially with some of these bids that are only like $8,000 apart.
Right.
I think speaks to the level of the drawings that were submitted and the people that put all that together. So kudos to you and your team for running a tight ship on that one. And to have the low bid and the high bid that close as well on a budget of that. I know it sounds like a lot, which is roughly $500,000, but that's really not that big of a spread when it comes down to this kind of work. So anyway, congratulations, and
Yes.
we look forward to seeing this thing go forward.
David, I'm going to piggyback on that. And on what you said, Sandy, Mr. Sullivan, I do enjoy when you present to us your process and your matrix where you grade them and you have all this history. And so, I trust that that's how this process went. But I just wanted to say to you that I enjoy seeing that. So if you ever feel like you want to share your process in selecting not just the low bid, because I know that's not the factor, as Sandy said, there are so many other things which I think is ingenious how you've come up with this matrix to kind of break that down. So if you'd ever care to share that, I'm sure we would all love to see it.
Yes, ma'am. I could share that for this project if that would be something that the superintendent supports. And that information is available, but just wasn't presented because it was on consent.
I would love to, not to hold up anything, but I would just love to see it as information. Even if you emailed it to us, I think it would be great.
Because I think we've seen it in the past, though. You've shown us what the matrix has been in previous years. So, but you may not have been on the board, and
When you
because
consider that the new
Yeah.
No, I've seen his matrix.
seen it.
Okay.
Yes, he's presented it before, but I was curious to see what it looked like with this bid, in particular because there's such a small variance between the high and the low, and I was just curious to see
Okay.
what that looked like.
I can have it out tomorrow, Dr. Micah. Not a problem.
But do we need to hold up approving this? Okay.
No,
Okay.
no,
Okay.
not at all.
So I would like to piggyback off of Sandy's and David's and Sandy's. And just say, I'm not trying to always sound critical, but I've been, in I guess, the industry, looking at bids and reviewing information for so long and know, the process and the concerns. So I am glad to hear, and actually I'm glad to hear that it's not the same old ones that we keep using, and that, it might be a slightly smaller firm, but that, your process showed that you all have confidence, and, I trust that you will continue, of course, the same oversight to make sure that, things continue to go smoothly. So I'm actually glad to see a different company.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Can I add a question? Appreciate the comments. You said the contractor on-time previous performance. How has their cost been? Have they been on cost, above cost, below cost in the previous contract with the district?
I would say they've been on cost.
And is there any safeguards in place, like a fixed cost contract? Or if there's a problem, are they going to absorb the cost, or would we, the taxpayers and the district, absorb the cost if something unexpected happened besides the district changing the plan?
I'm not sure I understand your question, Mr.
If there's a cost overrun, who absorbs the cost overrun, the district or the contractor, since they bid $1.95 million, I guess?
This is a hard bid job, so the contractor's cost to build the plans and specs is $1.955 million.
Okay, so they'll own the cost overruns.
Yes, sir.
The second piece of this, what is the estimated cost of phase 3 and 4? Because this is phase 1 and 2 pieces. What are we estimating that future obligation?
North of $7.5 million.
Okay. And then the other piece to that is, you mentioned 3 possible funding sources for the future: maintenance and operations, a future bond program, or some other funding sources. Obviously, 2 of those 3 don't exist right now, a future bond or the other. So where would that money come from M&O to make up the $7 million? Have we looked at that? Because obviously we're going to phase 2, but how are we going to get there for phase 3 and 4? Because if we vote yes tonight, we're committing taxpayer dollars for the next phases to continue this project, obviously.
Sure. Mr. Hilliard, there are things such as what you mentioned. Right now, we don't have a bond, correct? But that is something, because the 2015 bond is coming, that we're going to have to start talking at some future date about moving forward with it. Some of the things that are out there right now is we do have some different cyber businesses and such that have expressed interest in providing money in a partnership. We have one out of Houston that has really made us a sizable offer, quite frankly. But those are all things that we're working through and vetting right now, and we're just not committing at this point to anything, because when you start bringing in outside partnerships, oftentimes they want to take over, and we lose some of that control. So what we're trying to do is be very methodical and purposeful as we look at how are we going to do those types of things. So we used some of our M&O monies to actually fund it to date. This will keep us going for several years, probably 3, with the fact that we're going to get as much done as we can. So we've got enough time in the process to start looking at. And the biggest cost, Gary, and correct me if I'm wrong, is really that stadium in there.
Yes, sir.
So really phase 3, which is the rest of the classroom facility, is not as a huge cost. So it's really that stadium piece in there that is the bulk of that $7.5 million, which, quite frankly, to run a cyber center and educate kids, we don't have to have it. That is one of those things that we would like to, just to round out the venue. But if that's not, we can educate kids all the way through phase 3.
Okay.
And we were actually, in phase 1 and 2, we were actually able to get phase 1 and 2 done for what we thought we were going to get phase 1 done for. So that helped with the excellent bids that came through. You know, we were able to get more for our money this go around. So it's like Mr. Byer mentioned earlier, we had a lot of bidders on this project. So I think the market out there is in our favor at this point.
Great, thank you. I have one last question. Have we an estimated annual M&O cost for continuing HVAC, electricity, security, general maintenance? Do we have an idea of what that's going to cost? 'Cause obviously, it's a new facility that doesn't currently exist. And is it a small number, a big number? Any idea?
I do not have that information.
Okay.
For utilities?
Just the
So
everything.
list everything. again.
Everything that's ongoing
Like
maintenance.
utilities?
HVAC, electricity, security, obviously computer upgrades, all that stuff. I mean,
Yeah, I don't think we have that estimate, do we, Ron? I mean, we could do it for personnel, correct, Anthony? But as far as I don't.
We could do it for similar facility size, but I don't have that information. We haven't put that together.
understood. Just a new piece of stuff we're going to have the ongoing cost. So, thank you.
Okay, anything else on 3B? Okay, I'm going to move on to 2B, and I apologize, I don't remember who was. Well, can we do them all together? Or do I need to individually do them?
That's what I'm wondering.
I was just going to do them all together, but I guess. Okay, do I have a motion to approve 3B?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Huey. Do I have a second?
Second. Terry?
Thank you, Mrs. Williams. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Okay, item 2B.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. The donations, it's great that we have such a community. Is there any board policies that manage and guide how those funds, so that we can assure we have that proper accountability and safeguards in place? I'm just trying to understand the process of how that works.
Okay, there are some funds that people simply say, here, it's a donation to the campus, do with it what you want. There will be several times when it is for a dedicated purpose. And some of those are through the online, fundraising, and we have a policy of what can and cannot happen in crowdsourcing on the online fundraising. That is in policy. And if you have a question about any specific donation, unfortunately, this is a very decentralized system. Every campus takes care of their own.
Okay.
But if you have a question on any single one, I will be more than happy to do the research and bring it back.
I was just trying to understand the compliance. I was looking at the ones in particular on 12-220 from the Reagan campus, and there was multiple parent donations that day from 4 different people, including $36,000, which seems like a very specific number. So that's just trying to figure out how the accountability matches up with the donor's intent with that, and then how do we have the safeguards in place to make sure we track it and then feedback and meet the donor's intent, because that is the intent, right? Donations have to meet the requirement of the donor,
right?
Unless it's general donation.
So our campus accounting system has, if it says this is for this purpose, like every grade level, every campus has several different accounts, sub-accounts within there, and the student activities, if it goes to a student club, every sponsor, it's tracked. So if something says, this is specifically for theater at Reagan, I know that money will, if that campus bookkeeper is doing what they've been trying to do, the money will go into theater account. And then it's up to that sponsor of that group to ensure that the donor's intent was met, and we have different, internal controls on how the money must be, spent in terms of getting the actual checks cut.
Okay. And last question. I would assume if a donor requested something that was against legal policy or monetary policy, we would just say no and return the donations back to them. If someone ever requested something really wild, okay.
That is correct.
Thank you. That answers my questions. Thank you, Madam President.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve 2B?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Hilliard. Do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Mr. Leos. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Okay, item 2C.
Yes, ma'am, it's me again. just want to make sure I read this right. This is for the 2021 expenditures for the $100,000. Is that correct? How's it going?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, because on the attachment, it says 2019, 2020. So I don't know if we need to do an amendment before we approve it, but obviously that's different. I'm just trying to reconcile the different calendar school years. Does that make sense?
You said on the attachment?
On the attachment, it says curriculum instruction, Pacific Learning, bilingual ESL books, and then it says estimated expenditures 2019, 2020. Our action item is reflected of 2020, 2021 expenditures. So it's a different.
Okay, yes, I apologize if that's an error. It should be the 2020, 21.
Okay, so Madam President, I don't know if we need an amendment to officially make it count or not. I just noticed that they didn't reconcile. Thank you very much. That was my question.
Thank you.
I think we can just notate it, that it should say estimated expenditures for 2020, 2021.
Okay.
I'm sorry? Yeah. So do I have a motion to approve item 2C?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Winkley. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Byer. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Item 3C.
That was mine.
Okay, Mr. Byer?
Quick question, and I guess maybe it's two questions. One, oh man, I just lost it, sorry. So with all the talk of minimum wage going to $15 an hour, one, does that impact us? Two, have we looked at what that impact might be if some legislation such as that comes across the table? Because we have several trades that are, I guess not many, but there's a handful on this list that are under $15. They're in $13, $14 range per hour. And should anything happen more at the federal level?
Mr. Byer, we are watching that. We're not only watching it from the construction side, but I mean there's a huge domino effect to all areas of the district. But we haven't done any analysis or study yet at this point. I think if you'll notice, most of the wages that you see on this our sheet are above the minimum wage at this point. But we're just going to have to monitor. I did read something, I think today, that they're kind of backing off a little bit on slowing, pulling back the reins a little bit, but I'm not sure. It will be, from my understanding, a phased-in approach. It won't just automatically go to $15 an hour. So, but at this point, we have not done any analysis to that. But obviously, in future bond projects, that will be something that will impact the bottom line.
Sure.
And Mr. Byer, not only that, but look, Mr. Clary's budget will exponentially grow.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If that happens,
Yeah.
just because his division houses most of our hourly folks.
Right.
And so, yes, it would have a significant impact on our budget if it were to go to 15.
Well, and kind of to that point, with just the trade classifications we have in front of us today, there's several of them that went down. And the very first one is the landscaping and groundskeeping workers went from $14 an hour to $14 an hour. And so if our wages are decreasing and then all of a sudden we've got to increase those at some point, that could be a significant jump. And I guess with that, what do we know why the wages are of the categories that are decreasing? Is there a specific reason? I mean, some of them are only 5 cents an hour, 10 cents an hour, which can add up. But just wondering if there's something, if there's an influx of these trades that are driving the cost down, or if there's some other factor that you know of.
I can address your question, Mr. Byer. Each year, at the end of January, the Internal Audit Department downloads the Department of Labor database for all the trades that we track, which are these 49. They do an analysis. They adjust the wage rates regionally for Texas and then San Antonio, and then they publish the new wage rates that we present to the board every February. Once these are adopted, these are the wage rates that represent the minimum a contractor has to pay his workers if they bid on any school district work. They can pay more than this, they just can't pay any less than this.
Absolutely.
As far as the question about the $15 an hour, I would anticipate that the Department of Labor, if they get the direction that that's approved by Congress, that they're going to put out some notification to all the people that use their website that says, okay, the wage rates that were below 15 are all now 15, or they're going to have to republish their wage rates with an update, which then we would use to update these wage rates and bring it back to you.
Yeah. Okay. That's just things to think about.
Good
I'm sure you are.
Things to think about.
So thank you. That's all I had. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Do I have a motion to approve item 3C?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Byer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hilliard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Item 3G.
Sorry, that was me again. This is, I think, a quick question. It had to do with the Regency Place Elementary School with the unfortunate car accident that knocked out a backflow and whatever else. We're paying for that. Do we?
Yes, sir.
Are we getting insurance money from that individual or that entity?
Yes, sir. We went ahead and paid for it, of course, up front, so we could get the job done. Gary, do you have any information on the insurance part of it?
I can just say that we provided to the Risk Management Department all of the documentation for them to file a claim against the insured's claim.
Right.
And we would have to query the risk management folks on where they stand in terms of getting a reimbursement.
Sure. Well, thank you for jumping on that one really quickly. I know you didn't have a choice on jumping on that one, but
yeah, if you've been by there lately, you could not tell that something happened. So they did do a good job, jumped on it real quickly.
But what they all did, so Ron and I were actually out doing some visits. And when we drove by Regency, he pointed out, I don't know if you saw the big stones that are out there.
Right.
yes.
They actually positioned them there to hopefully prevent that from happening again, or at least slow it down.
We looked
so I
at a
thought that
couple
was a
of
good
options.
idea.
We looked at a couple of options how we could prevent this kind of accident from happening in the future, since it happens to be right at the curve. And this is not the first time that a vehicle has lost control and careened onto the school and done some damage. It's been about 10 years. So we looked at some kind of guardrail or a fence, but we felt the boulders was the best and the least expensive option to essentially protect the backflow preventer apparatus.
Especially after that construction just having finished in the last year and a half. And,
Yep.
So anyway, thank you. I just wanted to make sure we were
Yes, sir.
getting ourselves reimbursed for that. That is all I have.
Do I have a motion to approve 3G?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Winkley. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Leos. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, the motion carries. Item 11, reports. A, financial statement review of expenditures. B, awarded bid report. C, second quarter investment report. Those have all been provided for you. Item 12, discussion and possible action regarding board members' request for items to be placed on a future agenda and/or request for reports from the administration. Do I have a board member wishing to request a report? Okay. Seeing none, item 13, adjournment, and the time is 7:42. Thank you all for being here.